How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video, we're going to focus on the Atlantic hurricane season, more specifically 3 tropical disturbances that have the possibility of developing into a tropical storm in the near future. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather economists. So the disturbance we're currently watching right now is just off the east coast and has a small chance of developing, but still has the possibility of impacting the northeast coast with some enhanced rain showers. And we also are going to watch this area of convection right here, which is expected to move northward and has the possibility of developing into tropical storm Lisa and potentially coming uncomfortably close to the east coast. And we're gonna take a look at another tropical disturbance which is expected to move into the Caribbean and not only have the possibility of developing into a tropical storm, but develop into a hurricane potentially, as that's what the GFS model is suggesting at this point. But take a look at this disturbance right now. We do see that originally the chance that this was going to develop into a tropical storm was a lot higher, but now it's at a low chance, and it's primarily due to the fact that there isn't a lot of convection going on, and the wind shear is only going to increase as this mid-latitude trough comes through and enhances the wind shear, which will disorganize this storm completely as this continues to move northward, but still has a possibility of bringing enhanced showers to the portions of northeast. Now, taking a look at the global tropics hazards outlook, we do see that we have the possibility of tropical cyclone development somewhere in the Caribbean, and if this tropical storm were to develop, there is that possibility we could see a hurricane in our hands even entering the November timeframe. While of course the November portion of the hurricane season is nowhere near as active as, let's say, the months of August and September, you still are bound to experience potentially major hurricanes during the month of November. So don't underestimate the hurricane season just yet, just because we're entering the latter part of the hurricane season, because tropical cyclone development is still very well possible throughout the Atlantic during the month of November, and that's what the global tropics hazards outlook states right here. And I'm taking a look at what the computer models are saying. Let's first take a look at what the GFS model is stating. So in terms of this trough, the GFS model does not expect it to develop, as it seems like the wind shear will be a little bit too strong and it will deal with a decent amount of dry air. Of course, we're entering the month of November, so we're beginning to see a lot more cool, stable air enter the Atlantic, which will make it difficult for tropical cyclones to have enough convection and lift for to support a tropical storm or hurricane. So as a result, this does have a low chance of developing, as a GFS model does not expect it to develop. However, if I were to continue to move it more towards a long-term future, we do see that this area of moisture that's currently just north of the Caribbean is expected to move northward, and the GFS model expects that area of moisture to develop a well-defined center of circulation, and we do see a tropical storm just to the west of Bermuda and just to the east of the Carolinas. And while the GFS model does not bring it ashore, which is certainly good news, it's still at least something to be aware of right around Bermuda and potentially the east coast when it comes to high surf threat. But the more concerning scenario out from the Atlantic hurricane season is this right here, where we do see a GFS model wants to develop a tropical storm just to the south of Puerto Rico and develop Dominican Republic. And not only a tropical storm, we even see this become a hurricane based on what the GFS model is forecasting. Now, this is 7 days out. There's still time to iron out the forecast, but it isn't so far out to a point where a GFS model doesn't know what it's talking about. It at least has there's at least some truth to it if the GFS model wants to develop a tropical storm, that there will be an enhanced amount of moisture that's expected to move into the Caribbean. We could see a tropical storm and potentially a hurricane develop, as we do see that if I were to go even more to the very long-term future, we see this not only become a hurricane, but potentially a major hurricane just off the Central American coast, which would definitely be the last thing you guys want, especially since you guys were just impacted by a hurricane recently. So you definitely don't want to see another hurricane. But of course, this is very far out. There's still a ton of time to iron out the forecast over the next several days, and I'll keep you guys updated as the forecast changes. And what's good news as of right now is that the European model isn't expecting anything to develop in the Caribbean, and that's primarily due to the fact that the European model doesn't expect as much moist air to move into the Caribbean. We do see that the European model does not really develop anything, and while it does bring an enhanced amount of thunder showers to the Caribbean, nothing really develops out of it. We don't see a well-defined low pressure system, so there's still uncertainty, especially since both of the two main computer models are having pretty big disagreements regarding the future of this tropical disturbance, because we have one taking a full-on major hurricane, while we have the European model not taking even a well-defined enough low pressure system to become a tropical depression. So there's still a high amount of uncertainty, but I'll keep you guys updated as the certainty changes. But taking a look at the relative humidity, the thing is that the European model, while it does expect moisture, there's going to be a lot of dry air on the western side of it, and also the moisture is going to be a little bit too close to land to really have an open area where a well-defined center circulation could develop, and that's going to be an issue because, of course, this area of moisture needs to be over the open waters to really get a high amount of convection going around the center circulation, and it seems like most of the moisture is going to be a little bit too close to land, and a lot of the air molecules will want to converge towards land rather than out to sea, since of course all this convection is going on over South America rather than the Atlantic Ocean. This is definitely different when we take a look at the GFS model, where we do see that not only is the relative humidity a lot higher, but we do see the moisture a lot further northward, which would allow for an open area for this to develop in the Caribbean. And plus, we see majority of the moisture, in fact, is over the Atlantic. So all the air molecules would want to converge towards the Atlantic Ocean rather than the northern portion of South America for this area of thunder shower activity to absorb all the energy over the open water for a tropical storm to develop. So we're just going to need to wait and see the position of where this moisture will be by the time this approaches the Caribbean to really determine if this does have a good chance of developing or not. So I'll keep you guys updated. And in terms of the upper level winds, unfortunately, they're going to be very weak, as it seems like upper level winds won't be an issue as this tropical disturbance moves westward. So that definitely will enhance the possibility that this does develop, but we're just going to need to wait and see how much moisture will move into the Caribbean to really determine if this will develop. This could be a very bad scenario if the GFS model's scenario is correct, where we do see a major hurricane develop in the Caribbean. So I'll keep you guys updated as we continue to get more updates regarding this tropical disturbance over the next several days. Now, in terms of the other tropical disturbances, we do see the GFS model pretty much wants to fizzle this out, and this disturbance, like I said, while there is a possibility it'll develop, the most likely scenario is that this will move out to sea. Of course, we're in the time period approaching November where the wind shear becomes very strong right around the mid latitudes, and even going further up northward where the jet stream winds tend to be very strong. So it's easy for tropical cyclones to move eastward very fast. So that's something good news, that we're unlikely to see this tropical disturbance move towards the east coast, even if it's worth to develop. But I'll keep you guys updated if there's any major changes with that forecast. Now, taking a look at the current 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook for this tropical disturbance, you do see that currently the chance of tropical cyclone formation is low, but there's definitely but you need to keep in mind that the GFS model really wants to strengthen this beyond the 5-day mark. So if the National Hurricane Center does detect that within 6 or 7 days from now, that chance that this develops is higher, then we should see the chance of tropical cyclone formation rise as we head more and more into the future, once we approach the point where this tropical disturbance moves into the Western Caribbean within the 5-day period. So So take it with a grain of salt. Despite the chance that despite the chance being low, there's still easily a possibility the chance will rise if the National Hurricane Center detects that further west where the conditions will become more conducive. So don't focus on the chance so much, because there could be a much higher chance in a little bit more long-term future. And taking a look at this disturbance, we have a low 30% chance of developing. And again, this could be another one of those scenarios where the chance could rise as this heads further northward, and the 5-day window moves more and more into the future if conditions detected to become more conducive enough. But even if this were to develop, it won't likely impact the United States. But Bermuda still needs to at least pay close attention to this when it comes to the possibility of enhanced rainfall and potentially higher surf if this were to develop. And then this disturbance right here, the chance is very low and it has a short window to develop. And another thing is that it's going to move over the cooler waters, and of course, since we're entering late October at this time, the sea surf temperatures are cooling down quite fast. So it's going to have a small window where it's able to develop, and it's going to be unlikely it'll develop within this very small window where it only literally has a 24 to 48 hours to develop, and it doesn't have a lot of convection going on. So it's unlikely that we're going to see this develop, but it still could bring enhanced rain showers in New England. So make sure to pay close attention to that. Now, taking a look at what the ensemble members are stating, we do see that that the GFS model, some of the ensemble members do want to develop this into at least tropical storm status. So it's at least something to be aware of in the Caribbean. And we do see some wanting to take it northward towards the Dominican Republic and Haiti, while some are more lenient on bringing this southward closer to Central America. So even if this doesn't develop, there's still that possibility you could experience enhanced rainfall associated with this low pressure system. So keep that in mind if you're around the Caribbean and Central America, as the hurricane season is far from over. While of course we're entering the latter part, there's still that possibility we could see Tropical Storm Lisa in the very near future into next week. So keep that in mind right around the Caribbean and Central America. Now, taking a look at my forecast when it comes to the possibility of Tropical Storm Lisa and Martin. So this tropical storm is very unlikely to develop. I will be surprised if it does develop, but still pay attention to enhanced rain showers along eastern Canada and the eastern portion of New England. This tropical storm has a possibility of developing. As of now, it doesn't seem like it's gonna bring any direct impact to the United States, but Bermuda needs to pay close attention to this. And of course, the forecast is bound to change with this tropical disturbance. And then but I think one of the bigger concerns will be this tropical disturbance where the GFS model is developing a hurricane. We need to see whether the GFS model or the Euro model will be the more correct one, depending on how far north or south the moisture moves into the Caribbean. But I'll keep you guys updated regarding the certainty with that forecast over the next several days. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. I hope you guys have a great day.